Sandeep, absolute pleasure having you here with us on indigomusic.com and a very happy Environment Day to you.
Hello, Rohit. Happy Environment Day to you as well. It's a pleasure to be back here.
Yes, and it's our pleasure to have you. Now, Sandeep, my first question is how has lockdown 1.0 and 2.0 changed, in terms of air pollution in a city like Bengaluru?
See, of course, everybody thinks it's great for the environment because of the visual impact it has. Suddenly, the air clears up. Even Rajakalu Way water has become, cleaner. And of course, there's less vehicular pollution and industrial pollution. Hence, the air cleans up. Yes, in the night you can see the sky again. You can see the stars. But if you really look at other parameters, like if you look at the emissions, it has a very marginal impact. So that goes to prove one thing, that our system is so plugged into this industrial paradigm that even a lockdown doesn't have much impact on the net environmental impact. So if you look at emissions, if you look at climate change indicators, nothing varies much. So this is where we need to be far more intelligent in our evaluation. It's not just the visual stuff. So it also means that, a lot of us think that, if we switch to electric vehicles, then, pollution will go away. So now the vehicles are not on the road. So why isn't pollution going away? It's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So which is why we need to go back to the basics. And that's something that as a civilization, if we don't have any claim to being an intelligent species.
Right. Now, Sandeep, this World Environment Day, for the coming decade, what is the theme and why is it so important?
So if you look at this, not just this year, for the decade starting 2021 to 2030, UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, has chosen a theme of ecosystem restoration.
Right.
So, and this is what I've been talking about for the last 5 to 6 years in all the forums that I've been speaking about. Whenever the question of sustainability comes up, I used to say sustainability is an outdated concept, because what does sustainability mean? It means you retain things as they are.
Yeah.
But we are so far down the slope that this is not a state we want to be in. We need to regenerate. We need to restore. We have to go back, say 50 to 100 years if we are to have a hope of surviving the coming apocalypse, So it's great to see that the UNEP is actually saying that it's time for restoration. It's not time for sustainability. I think the time for sustainability is past. It's a passe word.
Right.
The theme that is rightly chosen is restoration. I generally keep talking about regeneration, because restoration somehow implies that, we human beings have to do things and, as if, nature doesn't have a role to play in it. But what I believe is we are just a minor cog in the wheel. We are just a speck in the wider scheme of things. We need to allow nature to regenerate, because we have prevented nature from playing out wherever we have interfered with the planet.
True.
And we need to allow nature to come back, because that's our only hope. Nature knows best. It's wiser, it's bigger, it's larger.
Yeah.
And if we allow nature to regenerate, we have a hope to survive in the larger scheme of things.
Right. Now, speaking about regeneration, you work a lot when it comes to regenerating lakes in Bangalore. Now, how is the scene right now when it comes to lakes? Are they on track when it comes to the officials, taking care of regenerating these lakes? Because I personally, let me tell you, I live in JP Nagar 7th Phase, and there is a lake near my house. It's called Saraki Lake. And recently they dug up the whole thing. They did a fabulous job. And whenever I go now on that stretch, I feel really good that, finally this lake has been brought back to life. Now, how are things elsewhere in Bangalore? What is the scene right now?
Well, if you were to evaluate it in basics, on the basis of expectations versus
reality,
delivery, it won't really score much. But there is a ray of hope. Okay. For the first time, there is lack of clarity. Like all these years, we didn't know who actually was in charge of lakes. because there is always this myopia in terms of policy, and there is this multiple stakeholders. This is the bane of Bangalore. No, you'll have like 10
Yes.
making a stew, and so different lakes were under BDA, under BBMP, under Forest Department, and I don't know, even other departments. And then some departments have funds, some departments don't have funds. Thankfully, last year the government decided to transfer all the lakes into one department, that is BBMP lakes, at least in the city. And I think throughout Karnataka they all come under the irrigation department, minor irrigation department.
Yeah.
There are pros and cons to that, but in the city, since you're asking me about Bangalore, now at least they have a published list of all the lakes that are under the BBMP lakes. By and large, all lakes have been transferred to BBMP in terms of who's in charge.
Right.
So the possession has been given. What else needs to happen? I don't think the BBMP has enough funds to rejuvenate. I think I don't know how many lakes, close to 200 lakes they have in the list, but they have, because of an ongoing PIL in the High Court. The High Court had asked BBMP to provide a roadmap on recovering of lakes. So they have entrusted NEERI of Hyderabad to do a project study on it. And they've come up with a study which lists all the lakes, the state they are in, what needs to be done, etc., etc. I think plan of action will follow. So things are, if you ask me, they are on the uptake, in the sense it's looking more positive, it's better,
Right.
more organized, a lot of facts and figures out in the public domain. We at least know who's in charge, which was not the case till last year.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah,
true.
there's a ray of hope, and some lake rejuvenations have been happening, like
Yeah.
you said, Saraki Lake.
Yeah.
So a lot of lakes had a phase of, they had DPRs published. Then they got the funds allocated, both from BBMP. Largely, BBMP wouldn't have all the funds, so a lot of NGOs would come in with, say, CSR funds and stuff like that. And somehow these things take place. Then a period of rejuvenation happens, and hopefully the results will sustain itself. Because, see, if you go back to lakes, they were maintained every year. Now we do it occasionally,
Right.
So
Right.
that's a bane. But yes, even in Whitefield, there's an Allurali lake which has completely been emptied, and the desilting is happening. The Vartur lake is completely dried up, and the desilting has been going on for a while, which is a large project. It's an extremely large lake.
Yeah.
So yes, there is good news, if you ask me, on the lakes of Bangalore.
Which is actually really great. Now, that leads to my next question. Now, one part of the city, which is the lakes, are, getting back to what they were before. But because of this pandemic, there's going to be a lot of biomedical waste, which can be surgical masks, the PPE kits. Now, we have seen news that there's a lot of people who are just throwing them off, and some of them are even reusing them, washing them and selling them back. Now, how do you think this particular waste is going to affect our environment?
Yeah, just before I go to that, I'd like to skip briefly back to the last question, since you ended it with saying that, lakes are going back to what was before. It's certainly not going back to what was before, because, see, we need to have an ecosystem understanding of lakes.
Right.
The lake is not just the lake boundary and the lake bed.
Right.
It has a buffer zone. There are these wetlands. So that what people of Bangalore are not aware is there are thousands of square kilometers of wetlands connecting every lake to the other. So between two lakes, the entire passageway is a wetland.
Okay.
It is very important for the water security. A lot of flora and fauna flourish in that. If you notice, all those areas are getting dumped with debris and soil and are getting reclaimed as land, which is a disaster for Bengaluru. And the government is required to notify these wetlands and safeguard them, which it has been ignoring its duty. So everything is not great, let me assure you. So that's a battle the citizens of Bangalore have to fight, to reclaim their wetlands. Wetlands are hugely important to our water security, to our flora and fauna, and to prevent the degeneration that's happening to Bangalore. Now, coming to your other question of the waste generation during COVID, yes, the biggest disaster that's happened due to COVID is this, because as a species, we humans, when we are in fear,
Yeah.
we just react and we don't care about the consequences. We
Correct.
work in. So what has happened is now we're generating huge amounts of not just waste, not just plastic waste. They're termed biomedical waste.
Yeah.
When something is termed biomedical waste, the under the law, the only way to dispose it is by incineration.
Yeah.
Now, number one, incineration is very harmful for the environment. You're
Correct.
basically spewing out all these chemicals into the air
Yes.
without filters. If it is.
Yes.
Now, I don't know how many facilities exist in Bengaluru for incineration with proper filters, which ensure that nothing goes into the atmosphere. Maybe a few hospitals have them, but otherwise it doesn't exist. So all these biomedical waste are just going into our waste supply chain. Okay. Now, so we are not equipped to deal with it. Second, this is a huge amount of plastics, a huge amount of rubber, a huge amount of chemicals. All of these are going in. God alone knows where it's going and how it's contaminating our environment. If you ask me, there might not be much difference between pre-COVID and now. It's just that large amounts of plastic waste must have increased. That's probably the tragedy.
Yeah, but hopefully that everything is going to be all right when it comes to COVID, and as well as the waste disposal of objects used during these times. Sandeep, it was an absolute pleasure having you here with us. Once again, a very happy Environment Day to you, and keep up the good work that you're doing to the city and to Mother Nature.
Thank you, Rohit. Happy Environment Day to you, to all of Bengaluru. I hope COVID is a reminder to us, and it acts as a reminder that we have to regenerate our nature, restore our nature to ensure that we don't have calamities in future. I hope that lesson is not lost in this flurry of reacting to this and causing more problems in the future.
Yes.
I really hope, it's more of a hope because we humans tend not to learn. And I hope the negative consequences of COVID in terms of waste generation and other contamination and other issues don't come back to haunt us later. As a community, as a society, I hope we learn to deal with this much better, and we build better systems which are in alignment with nature, both so that we don't have more pandemics, and also we restore our environment to a place which we can leave to our future generations better than what we've got it as.
Yes.
That's all I can hope for, and I hope every one of you contributes in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandeep, and stay safe.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.